crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die, and the odds ain't looking too pretty. But I got the feeling it's my time. I know I'm taking it now. Price of blood, sweat, and tears, and I never looked for salvation. I worked for this for all these years, and I wouldn't break or back down. No. I fought through all my fears and all of my frustrations. I see the light is getting clear. I know I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now. I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now. I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now.
Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's. We recap all the action from round 1 of the playoffs. We talk with the drivers over at William Byron Esports. We take a look at how you're racing at home with the Logitech Show Us Your Rig segment. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
'Cause we're invincible.
Welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's. And guess what? It is Dover Motor Speedway night. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and joining me as always, we have Blake McCandless and Alan Cabana. How are you two doing?
Doing great. Excited to be once again here in the playoff. Kudos to Blake for picking the winner in the last playoff race we had, so your bracket is so far perfect. But I love that we're going to Dover. I love Miles the Monster, the virtual trophy. Heck, you should get a real trophy. My favorite trophy in all of NASCAR, Blake.
Certainly so, Alan. By the way, second year in a row that, the bracket may work out for me. Maybe not the driver pick, so the bracket will as well. But yes, you're exactly right, Alan. Dover Motor Speedway, such an incredible racetrack, a lot of action to go on tonight, and it's such a critical part of the season. It's a great venue to try and see who will join Garrett Lowe on the stage in Charlotte here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we're in the critical times when we saw that opening and you see last year's champ, Casey Kerwin. I gotta say, I do love that. So shout out to the production team for putting that together. But you know what I love more? Is recapping everyone in the community about what happened last race. Let's take a look.
The pace car is down and in, field in the hands of Chucker Minter as we say, let's go playoff racing at Michigan. And a battle all the way for P7. You can see those leaders though, Blake, a little bit of single file, high line on the straightaway, and then they fan out and there he goes. Trouble with Joey Brown, Cody Bias in the 27, also slow on the racetrack. Spinning behind, caution flag, and number 3, the 40 car involved in this one. Dylan Alt will right the ship. A couple other drivers involved as well. Look out! They're gonna get spun around. There goes the 42 as he spins into the grass. And another yellow flag on the inside. It is a slow spin to the 88 machine of Kevin King. Lot of red windshield drivers involved in this accident, and it is gonna push us to overtime. Green flag in the air, 2 laps to go. It's eNASCAR overtime. 3 wide, there they go. Zelensky slides, what a huge save. 6 wide, there he goes. Zelensky into the outside wall, and a late caution as the leaders wreck off at turn 4. Leahy is also into the outside wall, and Luza takes P1. Pace car down and in. It's attempt number 2 at eNASCAR overtime. Green flag in the air. He's going to go all the way to the bottom, trying to break the draft as the 12 of Mainz tries to follow behind. Loser, though, going to get the benefit of the draft up top. Garrett Lowe, new race leader. The 10 of Wilson on the outside. He'll look for second spot. Barney awaits them at the flag stand. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go. Here comes Steven Wilson, looks to the inside, Guest, Lopez, they make contact for 3rd and 4th behind, and off of turn 4, Garrett Lowe will take the win at Michigan and punch his ticket to the championship 4.
And what a remarkable run it has been for Garrett Lowe in this latter stretch of the season. It has put him on the stage at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte for the championship floor and a chance to compete for a championship. But you see the rest of the field that now only has 3 spots to compete for, 9 drivers going for those final 3 slots, and so many of our top competitors this whole entire season, Alan, Nick Ottinger, Michael Conti, Jimmy Mullis, some guys that have some significant points to overcome, as well as some of these drivers, still so much on the line. We talk about it every single week, the battle to stay in the top 20 in this series. That cut line so very close with Donovan Strauss, Keegan Leahy, who nearly won last week, and Tyler Gary right now inside the top 20. And again, Alan, I think at this point you could still make the case that from Timmy Holmes on up, there is some hope. Maybe you could throw Ryan Doucette in there as well, that you can make up the points here in these next 3 races to get yourself back into the top 20 and a spot in the series next season.
So much on the line, including the team standings. A lot of some money, trophies, and pride. Look at the new. We have a new leader once again. Team Dillon has vaulted itself back up into the lead, over by just 9 points over William Byron Esports. What I love about this, look at that top 4, separated by only 33 points. The team title is anyone's right now, at least in that top 4. Actually, the top 9 are all mathematically eligible, but those top 4 all within 1 race of each other with just a few races left. That is going to come down to the final few laps in Homestead, I'm predicting. So much on the line, whether you are a driver looking for the title, relegation, or the team standings as well, Camille.
Yeah, it is a tight race for the teams, but let's talk about Michigan for a second, because there was a lot of action that was going down there, Alan, and these are, some of it was going on with drivers that were not a part of the playoffs. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and that's where I want to start. I might catch some crap for this, but what I saw in Michigan is that I need to see a lot more respect from some of these non-playoff drivers, especially early on in the race. There were multiple cautions within the first half of that race for no reason whatsoever. We saw 3, 4, 5 wide. Not just this incident with Corey Vincent in the 2 here. There were multiple incidents throughout the night involving non-playoff drivers kind of forcing an issue when it didn't need to be forced. All I ask these non-playoff drivers is think about one day. You may be in position to win $100,000. You don't want someone else affecting your shot at that. One day it might be you. So be a little smarter out there during some of these races, especially early when there's little on the line, Blake.
By the way, my topic from last week, how non-playoff drivers may affect it, we definitely saw it at Michigan last week. But the one thing that I came away from this race looking at, especially for somebody like Keegan Leahy, who has had an uncharacteristic year this year. He has struggled a little bit, was coming off of turn 4 before that incident you just saw a little bit earlier with the 12 car. Almost got to victory lane, but we saw how the caution unfolded and how that completely changed the entire layout of this playoffs. Michael Conti was having a good run, so was Nick Ottinger. Steven Wilson was further on back. He ends up finishing up on top of the podium. So it's, we've said it time and time again, you cannot rest. It is not over until the race and the checkered flag is out, and so much can happen in such a small amount of time, even at Dover Motor Speedway tonight.
Yes, a lot is on the line. I feel like I'm repeating that, but it is really this whole series this year. It's just been really close calls, and now we're in the final bits of it. So it's exciting to see it all fold out. But one thing we do like to do is check in with the drivers, and we saw that William Byron Esports is in 2nd place. So let's check with their drivers, Busen Ottinger.
What brought me back to William Byron Esports was the family aspect. We've built a very good relationship with the team manager, Jody, and we also built a very good relationship with William. He's like a brother to basically talk to each day if I need to, rely on, racing aspects, racing related, input, and he's a very good person and a very good driver.
Yeah, William Byron Esports is my new team for this year. A couple things brought me over there. Number 1, my good friend Nick Ottinger. He's been my setup teammate on iRacing for well over 10 years now. We've grown to be really good friends off the sim too. And William Byron himself too. He's a great, still I guess up and coming talent in the Cup Series. He's really professional about everything he does and cares about his team on William Byron Esports as well. Some of the new challenges are just going to be to compete with my teammate Nick Ottinger right out of the gate. I think we have a really good chance at a team championship. So it's a bit of a new pressure. Didn't really have that before. Previously, I had teammates that were still really strong, but just knowing Nick for so long, I know that he's going to be on top of his game, expect me to be on top of my game, and hopefully we can get done this year.
I've won one championship, yes. And, every year you have the same goals of, you want to win a race, you want to win championships each year, but, by the time I get done with sim racing, I want to be the guy that's won the most races, because at the end of the day, that's kind of all you can judge yourself on. The way the sim racing structure is with wins and, getting to the playoffs, that's all you can kind of hope for, but really at the end of the day, you just really want to, get a win for you and your support system around you. What it would mean to win the second championship is a proven track record in the series. You already obviously want to contend, year in and year out, and you don't want to you want to have a legacy when you lead the series. So at the end of the day, when I'm done with sim racing, I want to be the guy who's not just won one championship, won multiple championships, and it's won the most races in the series.
Outside of the Coca-Cola series, I love to run all sorts of racing and iRacing, including the Skip Barber Formula series. Those cars are really fun, Formula 4 cars, and last year I did their series in iRacing. And that series I managed to win one race and a pole, and part of my prize was to get a 3-day school in the Skip Barber Formula cars at Lime Rock. And doing that, my first time driving a real race car, my dream ever since being a little kid has been to be a real race car driver. And right away, I just knew I had what it takes to make it in the real world. It's all thanks to the practice and experience in iRacing. The sim to reality concept is something that's very real and very possible for many sim racers that are fast and have what it takes. And I hope to continue with Skip Barber, maybe get in their Formula Series this year in real life. My secret to victory this season is to rely on my experience and time management. Over the years, the nerves before a race used to always be there, and now I can really focus in on what the strategy is going to be in the race. Depending on where I'm starting, who's around me, I focus in on who I'm going to have to challenge or battle with. It can be a lot to handle, but over the years I've managed to find a good balance there, and hopefully now I'm ready to take the team championship.
Secret sauce to my victory this year is everyone around me. It's not one man, leading the charge. It's a collective, unit to, rely on, day in, day out. As a collective, team to push you day in and day out. So I would say it's always my crew chief, my spotter, and the support system of my teammates around me.
You gotta love it. Nick Onger looking for the most wins, leaving that legacy.
And they called it, right? They wanted that team championship, and they are right there for it. Willie B's having a career year, and so is his team here in the Coke Series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the series ends this year. I'm really excited, but I also get excited for seeing all your rigs at home, because it is time for Logitech Show Us Your Rigs. This is where we scour the socials, and right now we are on Twitter. Alan, this one's pretty cool. Looks comfy.
Yeah, well, comfy's a good word, basic's a good word, complete. That's not a real chair. That looks to be a beanbag stacked up. Hey, so whatever is comfortable for JD over there, you can sit there at the desk while he's racing at university. So I love that. Study a little and then work on your professional life. I like it.
Right, our next one is, let's have a look. This one's from Bill Gartner. Blake, what are you thinking here? I'm loving the wood paneling.
Well, hearing that Bill has been working on this for a while. He started this project in 2020 and has been upgrading it ever since. And I got to say, great cable management, very clean setup that he's got going on right here. And looks like a car seat that may have even an airbag tag on it or something. So, yeah, it's a great details here for Bill. It's very custom, but you know what? I like it a lot.
Safety first. Safety first. All right, our next one is from Philip. And, oh, this is a throwback here, Alan.
Yeah, who doesn't love a good throwback? This is first of our two throwbacks for the night. Philip sent this in for iRacing's 15th anniversary. This is Philip's first triple screen setup when his monitors were square layouts, and he used, get this, a first-gen iPhone as a display. Now that is all wooden rig there holding in the monitors in place. So an ode to the old school for iRacing. Love it, Philip. Thank you for sharing that.
That
I
looks
do
like a
love it
monitor.
as well.
Yeah, that looks like a monitor that maybe was used for NR 2003 at one point back in the day. So great innovation there
Whoa, look at
for
this.
Philip. Wow, okay.
Look at this one. Blake, what is... kids, this is an old school PC, just so you know.
I was about
Blake,
to say,
what's
this is
happening
about as old school as it gets. What a way to celebrate 15 years of iRacing here. 2 sets of button boxes, but I just got to love it. I will have to say, though, looking to the side, and actually, yeah, you can see the old Papyrus sim. That's not iRacing right there. That's one of the old Papyrus games that's on that monitor right there. So that is fantastic, Ben. Thank you for sharing that. That is fantastic to see how far we've come.
I bet that has a 14.4 modem there. I mean, I used to log on to AOL with that thing.
Oh, the dial-up sounds. Be sure to send us your rigs at home. We also love the throwbacks sometimes. Be sure to tag iRacing and NASCAR on all socials because we are watching. We also do love pets too. Just a little hint if you want to get in the show. All right, we also like checking in with drivers when they are on the track in the real world. And that's what we did, or we're going to do right now, because Letarte Esports had their drivers, Alt and McKissick, out in Daytona. Look at this, Alan.
Yeah, that's awesome. Steve Letarte, we know him. He's the man. He'll join us here in a few minutes. But he pulled some strings and brought his drivers to Daytona over the weekend for the regular season finale in the Cup Series. Blake, you know that feeling of being at the big track and seeing the race that they saw. What a cool experience for them.
Very awesome, and again, to be able to participate in such a great way in the race weekend, they're able to go out, they're able to talk to many of the fans that came out to the eNASCAR display that are looking to experience iRacing for themselves, and of course Daytona Beach. I mean, there's so much to do down there aside from the racetrack, but of course the racing experience there is about second to none. It's one of my favorite places to go whenever I drive down there for the race, and man, even to sit next to the Daytona 500 trophy there.
I mean,
really
they're
cool
so
stuff.
lucky. They're so lucky, and they also looked good doing it. Look at those jerseys. Talk about fresh. Where's
Swag,
our
I like it.
hookup? We
Yeah,
gotta
come
talk
on.
to
Producer
about
Drew,
this.
what are we doing here? Come on.
Drew, what's happening here? What's happening here, iRacing? What's happening here? We gotta, you know what? We need to talk to Steve later in the show and see if we could go out one of these in those jerseys. All right, now, you know, we do have Dover Motor Speedway up ahead of us for tonight. So, Alan, bring us all the trends.
Yeah, let's look at the trends because this is no stranger to the Coke Series here in iRacing, Dover, and its nice high banks there. This is actually the 10th race at the track for the Coke Series, and it's the 3rd time it's made an appearance in the playoffs. So it's nice to have such a difficult track here in the playoffs. Now, in all but the inaugural race back in Dover, 2011, 12 years ago, the Dover race winner won at least 2 races that year. So you win tonight, maybe you tack on another one in the next 2 weeks. That could win you $100,000. In every Dover race during the playoff era, the Dover winner has been a part of the playoffs. So big names, cream rises to the top. Again, it could happen tonight and send you right to Homestead for a shot at $100,000. Now, 2 of our playoff drivers have won here previously. Michael Conti has won here twice in 14 and 2018, and Nick Ottinger has won here 3 times, 2013, 2020, 2022. That's a lot of Miles the Monster trophies in the field tonight, so you got to think about them if you're making some picks. Dover winners went on to win the championship that year that they won. Michael Conti did it, Ryaluza, who's racing tonight, Nick Ottinger. So a Dover win could mean something. And finally, in 6 of the 9 Dover races, the race winner led the most laps in the race with an average starting position of 5th. Nick Ottinger did it once and just whooped the field, so we'll have to pay attention to qualifying tonight, see what that tells us about who could potentially win the race. Starting up front is a big benefit, guys.
All right, well, there's a lot to consider there. Thank you, Alan, for that. But now, why don't we take a look at what to expect from the track, because they don't call it the Monster Mile for no reason, Blake.
No, they certainly don't. It is one of the, especially even for me, one of personally my favorite tracks to run on the sim, and it is because there is so much speed you can carry around, especially in these next-gen cars. That remains true. Long straightaways, 24 degrees of banking in the corners. You fall down into the corners here at Dover Motor Speedway, can carry all that speed, run several different lines. You can stay down to the bottom or you can move up and kind of diamond the corner a little bit, as you're going to see many of these drivers starting to make their way out onto the racetrack right now, get their tires warmed up just before they go out for practice. But even you can see the difference, even when you're on the apron, of how much speed these guys are carrying, and the difference even between the apron and how much banking there is. Even the transition, you can see right there, getting onto the straightaway, 9 degrees of banking off of turn 2, how much of a sensation that is, and is definitely a great challenge for these drivers, and a very fitting venue being in the playoffs, and Nick Ottinger being your last winner. He could certainly use a victory tonight as well.
All right. Alan,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like this is the time in the show where me and Blake kind of put our heads down because we're a little embarrassed
Why?
this year in the series. It is time for our drivers' picks. Let's see where we're at with points. Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that's a healthy lead
Still
I
a
have
fight for
there with
second.
only 3 races to go.
Yes, Blake, but you know, the reality is we're both losers, unless, I don't know if anyone remembers last year. Last year I was killing it like Alan is this year, and I got held back because of production. So I feel like we should have a double or
Throw him under
nothing.
the bus.
I
I'll
feel
put
like
the
that's
title-
the only
I'll put the
fair.
title on the line when we get to Homestead at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. How about that? A challenge to both of you. Beat me there, take the win.
All right, you know what? I'll take that. And Blake, with that, let's hear your picks for the night.
Well, you know, I'm going to look outside the playoffs for who I think is going to win tonight. I think a lot of speed has been shown by this driver. I think Graham Bolin is going to get it done. So looking outside the playoff picture, it's been not as strong of a year for Graham Bolin, who made the championship 4 last year, but I think we get a winner outside the playoffs tonight. That could affect the outcome in this race. I'm taking Graham Bolin at Dover Motor Speedway tonight.
I'm going with someone who needs it. Michael Conti did not have the greatest opener for the playoffs, and he needs it. He tweeted, he knows probably every seam at Dover now. That tells me how much he's been practicing in anticipation of this race. I think that all that practice pays off. We know where he's going after this. He's retiring. He needs that win. I think he does it tonight and redeems himself for Michigan.
Well, for my sake, I think Steven Wilson is going to be the one who we're going to be talking about next week in the recap. I think he's going to do it. I believe in you. I believe in you. And yes, it is a little bit of a comfy pick, but hey, Alan's been doing that all year.
Yeah, what a good strategy. That's what I talk it. And we have some breaking news. Remember what I was saying about the trends and this race being won from the pole? Nick Ottinger, pole setter tonight, Blake. We know what he's done at this track before. Now he's starting at the front once again.
Well, we saw how important track position was last week at Michigan, but yet it kind of got thrown out the window at the very end of the race. Strategy is going to matter, especially here at Dover. Only 120 laps to get it done. Going to go by very quickly. So Ottinger sitting in a great spot after sitting 9th right now in the playoff standings. And
All
by the way,
right,
I
well-
don't think Steve is doing too bad either.
I don't think so as well. You know, obviously, we talked about Steve Letarte, and he is no stranger to Countdown to Green and, of course, the series. So welcome back, Steve. It's lovely to see your face.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. I'm excited for these final 3 races, 2 virtually and then 1 in person. I can't wait to get to the Hall of Fame. So much fun a year ago. We're going to do it again this year.
Certainly so, Steve. I'll be the first one to ask you. Of course, you've been a series owner here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series for a while. What do you get out of being a team owner, being able to watch your drivers go out and compete, and hopefully have a little bit of competition as an owner in the series as well?
Well, in the end, my entire life's been racing. My father was in racing. I grew up in racing, and I've had great opportunity to work at race teams and now for NBC. And I look at the iRacing and the eNASCAR series as just a great opportunity for those sim racers to kind of showcase their talents. I mean, this is so hard. These guys make it way easier than it really is. So I love to compete myself, or at least practice and play around with some friends. I wouldn't say I'm good enough to compete. But, owning a team is great because, as you guys just saw, right, to take those 2 drivers, both Brandon and Dylan, down to Daytona and kind of introduce those to the real world of NASCAR and the hospitality and seeing the fans and getting on the rigs at the track. It's great to see, this eNASCAR series and the NASCAR Cup series kind of blend together. It's a lot of fun.
Speaking of that blending, Steve, earlier this year, Tyler Reddick credited Keegan Leahy, who now works for 2311 Racing in-house, with helping him win at COTA. William Byron said he made tons of laps at Watkins Glen before he waxed the field there. And we continue to see iRacers get real-world opportunities. What do you make of that as time goes on? We're seeing the mixing of those worlds more and more on the competition side.
Well, I think it's two things. First of all, what I was saying a minute ago, that, you know, the drivers in this series are so good. People can't imagine just how good these drivers are. And the second part, you know, with limited track time and technology growing in the real world, every manufacturer has their full motion sim. Now they have static rigs. The static rigs not only are by manufacturer, but each race team has their own. So if you're going to develop those tools, the best thing you can do is take your real world driver to tell you, hey, this is what doesn't fit for what I feel in the real world. Then bring in one of these unbelievable sim drivers to then improve that product, because there are very few people in the world as good as these guys that could go in and consistently test and push and figure out where the actual tool needs to improve. I think it's great to see these guys get this opportunity, and I don't think this is going away anytime soon.
I don't think it is. And Steve, I want to bring a point up to you. Obviously, we know how many drivers use iRacing as a tool, but simulation, iRacing is also becoming a tool for the next generation of crew chiefs to learn. And of course, you being kind of a part of this transition where simulation became so much more important. What do you see as the future, not only for sim racing as drivers, but also as people who are going to be turning the wrenches as well?
So I think the fans would be, you know, a little surprised to realize, you know, what drives the back end of the iRacing when it comes to car dynamics is very similar to what race teams currently use to kind of test and try different setups for their cars on the real track. You know, it's not exactly the same, but the premise is the same. The technology is kind of there, and the math is kind of there. So I think it continues to push one another. The more realistic the game is, the better it helps, and the better really it's kind of the front-facing interface for some of the sim in the background.
All right, quickly before we go, Steve, I have to ask you, do you have to be one of your drivers to get one of those amazing jerseys? Or do you have 3 extra laying around, maybe?
Those jerseys are super impressive. I was thankful we got to find some good swag this year. Listen, everybody likes some good swag. And if you want the guys to wear them around the racetrack proudly, they got to look good. And I was proud with how those came out. They look good down in Daytona.
Definitely did. Made me jealous, at least. And I know we'll be sticking around for the race, so hold on tight. And all of you, hold on tight as well, because although Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's, is almost done, we got one more thing up our sleeve.
Yeah, we got a little breaking news. Check out this tweet from Kevin Harvick saying, I'm a little biased, but having Kern Raceway facility as a new track on iRacing is pretty awesome. Nice job, Dale Jr. and everyone at iRacing. Blake, this is breaking news. That is Kevin Harvick's hometown track, if you will, and now it's on iRacing.
Yeah, Kern County Raceway Park going to be a part of this upcoming release of the new season of iRacing. And again, there's just so many great facilities, and hats off to the development team, Kevin Iannarelli, and everybody at iRacing that does the artwork, the scans, and everything to make it possible. So many great venues being added, and of course, very special for Kevin Harvick, one of the Cars Tour owners. Got to give a shout out to the boss for being able to enjoy this as well. And you know what? I can't wait to run the 87 Pontiac that's also being added to iRacing in this upcoming build at this racetrack.
Big day.
All right, I'm going to have to see you do that one. But for all of us here at Countdown to Green, presented by Wendy's, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned right after this break for the race.
I need to try it first.
Our family stories are your family stories, except with more confetti.
Relive racing history with a walk along Glory Road, or try your hand at our fan favorite racing simulator or pit crew challenge. Feel the passion and thrill of racing with stories and artifacts from the legends who shaped the sport in the Hall of Honor and Heritage Speedway.
Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte for the ultimate outing. NASCAR Hall of Fame, this is our sport. This is our house.
It's official. Caleb Williams is transferring.
My man.
To Wendy's for the new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
Everybody say nacho! Nacho!
It's melty, it's crunchy, and it's queso-y. Easiest choice I've ever made. Of course, he's not the only one transferring.
Hey-o! Stable's got room for 2 quarterbacks.
Sorry, and who are you?
Matt Leinart, quarterback, national champion.
Afraid that doesn't ring a bell.
For the full nacho experience from all 4 sides.
Where's the beef?
Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
This is our series, where the stakes are always higher, where virtual meets reality. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, look at my shine with the thumb. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way out the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like boss. Time's right, and I know the city's walking in a limelight. Coming super when I watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high tide. My crown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you wanna play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Just 3 races left in the season. The stakes could not be higher as the greatest sim racers in the world approach the Monster Mile. Only 3 spots are left up for grabs to compete for the championship at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Will one of those seats be filled tonight? We'll find out as we welcome you to Dover Motor Speedway for round 16 of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. So happy you could be joining us on a Tuesday night. I'm Blake McCandless, joined by Alan Cavana and Steve Letarte. First off, want to send our well wishes to Evan Pasoko, who had to evacuate because of some weather down in Florida. So Evan, we hope you are safe, and we look forward to seeing you back when we visit Phoenix in 2 weeks' time. But Alan, we talked about it in Countdown to Green. So many stakes on the line. We have Garrett Lowe, who's transferred into the championship for 3 spots left, the remaining 9 playoff contenders.
And it's not going to be easy. We never promised it would be easy. Now we go to one of the toughest tracks here in the playoffs to do it. Dover Motor Speedway. They call it the Monster for a reason. The way it's banked, the speeds that you reach, it's not going to be easy. Whoever's going to win tonight is going to have to earn it. And if it's one of the playoff drivers, it means they get a 1 in 4 shot at $100,000.
Big stakes on the... Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was going to say, listen, whether it's in the sim or in real life, there's nothing easy about the Monster. It gets that nickname for a reason because it can reach out and bite you at any time. It's a track that has a tremendous amount of banking in the corners, but people talk about the straightaways. There's nowhere to hide. If you have an issue here, it's going to turn into a big issue.
It certainly is. Let's go ahead and meet some of the drivers that will be competing for that opportunity to show up at Charlotte and compete for $100,000.
Welcome to round number 2 of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs. With Garrett Lowe climbing his way to the top at Michigan, that means there are still 2 opportunities on the board for our playoff hopefuls to get a ticket to Homestead. We take this title fight to the Northeast as our competitors get ready to go toe-to-toe with the Monster Mile. These are your eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoff contenders. From Fresno, California, driving the Joe Gibbs Racing number 18 Toyota. Trying to go from the turn 3 wall in Michigan to victory lane here tonight in Dover, it's Bobby Zelensky. He salvaged a top 15 finish after being caught up in late race incidents at Michigan. He now has his sights set on the Monster Mile. In the number 95 XZ Chevrolet Camaro from Matthews, North Carolina, it's Casey Kerwin. With his fingertips on a top 10 finish before being caught in calamity in Michigan, he's looking for redemption tonight. From Warrenton, Virginia, driving the number 33 Team Dillon Esports Chevrolet, it's Tucker Minter. He started the night up front at Michigan, but fell down the order. Trying to take the number 8 Junior Motorsports Camaro all the way to the front of the field tonight. From Charlotte, North Carolina, it's Michael Conti. Driving the number 3 Team Dillon Esports Chevrolet out of Bayonne, New Jersey, he went from 13th to 5th on the last restart at Michigan. Looking for the top step of the podium tonight, it's Jordy Lopez. narrowly missing out with a runner-up finish at Michigan. He's trying to conquer the Monster Mile tonight. From Iowa City, Iowa, it's the driver of the number 10 Stewart Haas Esports Ford Mustang. It's Steven Wilson. Bringing the Jim Beaver Esports number 15 Ford Mustang in a victory in round 1 at Michigan. Don't expect this driver to take his foot off the pedal tonight. From Gastonia, North Carolina, it's Garrett Lowe. Rounding out the all-playoff podium from round 1, he's another driver who won't just settle for a taste of glory. From Brownsburg, Indiana, driving the number 45 2311 Toyota, it's Michael Guest. With a penalty in Michigan keeping him at the back of the field, the chains are off this week in Dover for the driver of the number 46 Chevrolet. For Rise Esports from Midland, North Carolina, it's Jimmy Mullis. He flew under the radar in round 1, so expect a statement from the number 25 William Byron Esports Chevrolet tonight. From Claremont, North Carolina, it's the Audi boss, Nick Ottinger. Will a playoff driver secure their spot with Garrett Lowe in the Final Four? There's only one way to find out, as round number 2 of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series playoffs starts now.
The field working its way off of a tight pit road at Dover Motor Speedway, and this is how the field will line up to get things started tonight. Row 1, you'll see Nick Ottinger, who once again secures a pole position for William Byron Esports, and Steven Wilson, following up his strong effort last week for Stewart Haas Esports, will go from second. Inside of row 3 will be Bobby Zelensky. Although he'll have a grid penalty, he'll have to start tonight from pit road for Joe Gibbs Racing. And Tucker Mentor, another playoff contender for Dillian Esports, will go from 4th. Stewart Haas Esports' own Dylan Duval will start 5th. Parker White for Tony Kanaan will go from the 6th position tonight. Back in row 4, you'll see Donovan Strauss from Williams Esports and Kevin King representing Junior Motorsports starting in 8th. Jordy Lopez goes from 9th for Dylan Esports, and Charlotte Phoenix's own Femi Olot will go from the 10th position tonight. Starting 11th inside of row number 6, you'll see Michael Conti, 10th right now in the playoff standings for Junior Motorsports. Pittsburgh Knights is represented by Corey Vincent starting in 12th. Back at 13th, you'll see the other Pittsburgh Knights entry in Ryan Doucette and Garrett Lowe, who has a spot secure in the Championship 4 for Jim Beaver Esports. Steve's first driver up on the grid is going to start from 15th tonight with Brandon McKissick, and Charlotte Phoenix's own Graham Bolin will start from 16th tonight. Zach Novak for Rise Esports goes from 17th. Casey Kerwin will start 18th tonight for XSET Gaming. 19th is Joey Brown for FGR Excel. Alan Bowes will round out your top 20. Daniel Falkingham starts 21st for Joe Gibbs Racing, followed by Malik Gray in 22nd for Jim Beaver Esports. 23rd tonight, you'll see Michael Guest for 2311 and Colin Bowden for Parker Clearman and Landon Castle's E-Racer going from 24th. Derek Justice will round out the top 25. For the Kansas City Pioneers, Stephen Letarte's Esports' Dylan Alt starts 26th. Derek Bordeaux is 27th for ESC. It's an ESC row for Cody Bias, who he'll see alongside his teammate in 28th. 29th, and again, 29th on back. Did not set a time in qualifying. Garrett Maines and Vicente Salas will make up your 30th row. White Tinsley from 31st. Michael Koji Jr. will go 32nd for Kansas City Pioneers and FRM, respectively. Keegan Leahy goes from 33rd tonight with Caden Honeycutt to his outside in 34th. Ryan Luza starts 35th. Matt Busa will roll from the 36th position. Timmy Holm 37th with Jimmy Mullis in 38th. And row 20, you'll see Tyler Gary round out what is a 39-car field. But Alan Cavada, we'll toss it over to you and Nick Ottinger, who's standing by.
Yeah, the front of the field, out of box. Nick, you've won this race multiple times. The pole winner usually does very well in this race. What is your biggest challenge tonight, knowing you can get it done?
I think it's the competitors behind me. So we have a couple playoff guys right with me. With our Logitech G team, we put a lot of time in here for this race. There's a multitude of things that can go right for us, multitude that can go wrong. But, you know, we're our own worst enemy, so we just got to position ourselves and got to do my job in the driver's seat.
What kind of preparation goes into tonight, knowing how many cautions, how dangerous this track can be from a competitor's perspective?
I think more than anything, it's It's more about your starting position, obviously. Such short races and stuff like this, so a lot of prep went into this. I'd say definitely 2 weeks worth of straight testing, some sleepless nights, but if you want something bad enough, you put the time in, and our 25 team's going to be doing that.
You said it best, $100,000 potentially on the line. Nick Ottinger, good luck tonight. Let's throw it over to our own Steve Letarte for tonight's race analysis.
Well, let's see what's ahead of these competitors at the Dover Monster Mile. It's 120 laps, which is 120 miles. Pit road street extremely slow at 35 miles per hour. It takes about 50 seconds for pit lane time. 3 sets of tires available. They can run 65 to 70 laps on fuel. And talking to some competitors in the field, they feel like this is a track where tire grip goes away, so new tires are going to be very important. Just which yellow you put them on, Blake, because we've seen this race have a rash yellows in the past.
It certainly has. This race has a history. I believe it was 9 cautions the last time that we competed here for 120 laps that saw the man that is up front right now, Nick Ottinger, take down the win. Lights are off on the pace car as it will dive to the safety of the pit lane. And for the 24th time, Nick Ottinger will lead the field to green as we say, let's go racing from Dover Motor Speedway. And you can see why they call it the Monster Mile. Already early on in this one, an accident involving about 7 or 8 drivers off of turn number 2. And it started about midway in the pack, as I believe it may have been one of the ESC. It looks like the Sim Seats colors, at least from my vantage point, that got a little bit loose there in the middle of turns 1 and 2 as they stacked up. It was Cody Bias, you could see rolling along right there with a little bit of damage. And already early on, the caution flag is out for the first time here at Dover.
No place to hide early on in this race, and we saw in that starting lineup there were playoff drivers, Jimmy Mullis, Matt Busa, quality drivers back there starting. Certainly not the way you want to start. Here's the replay.
Going to take a look here at Cody Bias. He's the highlighted driver that's down on the inside, and I think you're going to see a huge stack up as they get down into turn 1. Remember, a lot of these drivers at the back of the field did not pull a time. It looks like a little bit of contact between he and may have been the 12 of Garrett Maines as they got down in the first corner. Bias checking up in front of him. As we'll see one more time, this is from Timmy Holmes's number 6 for RFK Racing.
Yeah, just stack up. A big break you see in the distance right there. Bobby Zielinski, you had mentioned it during the grid, had to start this race from pit lane. This early yellow allows him to pull up right to the back.
Yeah, that is a huge break for Bobby Zielinski. You talk about starting from pit road, especially here at Dover, and honestly was kind of helped by the fact that he was still allowed to qualify, but qualified in the 3rd spot, so he was able to roll off of pit road and not even lose a lap. So Bobby Zielinski very much helped out by this situation. You could see him on the track, did not manage to lose a lap. But of course, if you want all the latest updates from everything going on in the eNASCAR world for this series and a whole lot more that is going on iRacing, you can scan the QR code at the right hand side of your screen. You can sign up today with iRacing, the official simulation partner of eNASCAR. You can see a couple of playoff drivers here, Alan, that make up the back of this field, highlighted by both the red roof numbers for everyone that is in the playoffs. You can see Jimmy Mullis right in front of him with that Sunoco Chevrolet also at the tail end of the field here.
Yeah, lucky to make it through that early incident. Steve, and the first thing, we had an example of, we come off Michigan where it's about five wide there, and here on the first few laps, you can barely go 2 wide here at Dover. So skinny, so tight of a track.
Well, so narrow, and really there's nowhere to go, just because even though the corners look wider, and it might widen out during the race, here on new tires, you expect the bottom 2 lanes to be the best. So when a car loses control, they start up the banking and then eventually back down the banking.
So we'll form it up and we'll try it once again. The beneficiary of that was Dylan Duval, who has already worked his way up. He started in 5th, and he's going to have himself on the outside row once we get rolling here. So we'll try it once again. Lights are off on the pace car, and Nick Ottinger will lead us back to the green flag with Dylan Duval, Steven Wilson, and Donovan Strauss, somebody else who made up a couple of spots, up from 7th to 4th as they made it through just 2 turns. We'll try it once again here at Dover Motor Speedway as Nick Ottinger will work his way back into the Geico restart zone and bring us back up to speed here at Dover Motor Speedway. Ottinger able to clear for the lead. Duval trying to carry some momentum on the outside line. They'll be side by side, many rows deep down the back straightaway, and this time able to make it through without an issue off of turn 2.
Steven Wilson does a nice job falling in second, kind of getting that position. First 3 cars single file. A battle for 4th right here, side by side between the 33 and the 51 of Strauss. Strauss kind of stuck up on the top side.
And Strauss, one of those names we haven't seen toward the front of these fields, much. Obviously not a playoff driver. We haven't seen him toward the front of these fields much during the season. To see what he can do here on the outside early on in this race. I talked about it in Countdown to Green. How much will the non-playoff drivers affect this field? We might see an early example here as we look at the 36 of Brandon McKissick. I think P12 right now, Steve.
Yeah, Brandon, a nice job, decent qualifying, and has now just settled in. It's nerve-wracking for an owner early, but once we get single filed here, now it's kind of pick and choose your spots. You just see and you can listen how much throttle time on these new tires. This place is still very fast.
And right behind it's over.
Yeah, you can see right behind him, that was Corey Vincent, Joey Brown, and Casey Kerwin. And this has been about every single race that we've seen out of this 95 camp. Started about mid-pack, has already made his way up several positions since the drop of the green flag. And I don't know if there's been anybody better this season making his way, making up spots early in these races than this 95 bunch and Casey Kerwin.
Until he's dethroned, that Casey Kerwin, the 95, is still the defending champion, right? So until they take that ring and trophy from him, he is still the one to look at as essentially the favorite, the one you want to go take it from. And he has proven he can do it. He's kind of got that slow and steady approach. Seeing him here pick off some cars, I think of like the Jimmy Johnsons of the world, Steve, the ones that were patient about it. Oh, that 75 car looks like an old Hendrick car, Steve.
That does. That looks like a Jimmy Johnson-esque paint scheme right here with the blue and silver. That's pretty well done by Sunoco. The 75, that has that same sort of green as that 48 we used to see around here. We'll see if it brings them the same success as that scheme brought Jimmy Johnson.
Great paint scheme there, as it has been all season for Rise Esports. Also further on back, you can see the Kyle Petty protest car that Garrett Lowe has sported. It's been some good luck for him throughout this season. Of course, locked into the championship 4. Back up front, change up front for the race lead. Stuart Haas Esports looking awfully strong right now. 2 of the top 3 cars. One of them has passed Nick Ottinger for the race lead, and Steven Wilson, fresh off a podium finish last week, also trying to get that 2nd spot from Ottinger.
Yeah, Dylan Duval in the lead now. Steven Wilson trying to chase down 2nd place. But we have to talk about the implications. A non-playoff driver winning, what does that do? That allows another position in on points for when they go to Homestead and compete for the title. So implications throughout the field should a non-playoff driver win. And that's what we're seeing right now. Dylan Duval running great early on in this race.
Well, on the left-hand side, you see highlighted in red in the pylon all of the playoff drivers, and they definitely dominate the top 10 or 12. But if there's ever a season to get some non-playoff winners, this seems to be it. The spread of different winners through the field, I think, is as big as any other year we've seen. Not a real dominant driver. No one out there winning 4 or 5 races. I think it's Bobby Zielinski with 3 wins kind of leading the series.
Yeah, Zielinski does indeed lead this series with 3 wins. He is already trying to make his way back up through the field, but right now sits in the 31st position. But if you want to find perhaps your way not only onto iRacing, but perhaps one day driving in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, for more information on how to become a driver and work your way up the eNASCAR ladder, You can visit iRacing.com/eNASCAR today. 15 laps already gone by here at Dover Motor Speedway. Dylan Duval still your race leader. You can look up at the top 10, well represented, both of playoff and non-playoff drivers. And, you know, having his best run of the season right now, Alan, is Kevin King. Started up front, hanging on to the 8th position, and, you know, somebody that was a part of this series a number of years ago, and good to see him finally having a very solid run in that number 88 car. It's been a lot of rotten luck for the driver who's making his return to this series, but you can see him right here holding strong just in front of his teammate competing for the championship behind him, and Michael Conti.
Yeah, rough year for that 88. He had a good run going in Michigan in one of those cars that was taken out in an incident that was sort of forced, not what we wanted to see during a playoff race, but a good time to pick it up and start mixing it up in the field here. But that's a teammate. You mentioned that, Blake. That is a tough position to be in. When your teammate is right behind you going for a championship, you have to worry about him and what you're doing, but also you want to take one for the team sometimes and make sure your driver, your teammate, competing for that title, gets all the positions he can.
And what a recovery week this has to be for Michael Conti, Steve, especially after having such a strong season. We talk about the amount of bonus points that you can accrue through many of your wins. Michael Conti was the top seed coming into the playoffs already after one race. He is the 10th driver in the playoff standings coming into this race, so all that has to reset. He was talking this week about how much he was having to test for this race and how demoralizing, but also how determined I think he's going to be tonight, having to chase back and make up all the points that he lost in just 1 week at Michigan.
Yeah, that 32nd at Michigan for sure put him back. Only one race during the whole year was he outside that position, 35th at Nashville. So now, you know, you can't go back and redo it. You just have to settle in, and then that's what that testing was all about for Michael Conti, and this is a very experienced driver in this series. He knows how you have to kind of be patient. And right now, running in the 10th position, this is kind of in striking distance. And this is Dover as we ride on board, right? He has that second lane, that opportunity to drive in and kind of roll to that right rear quarter panel. Pin that guy on the bottom. Much harder to get off the corner when you only have one lane on corner exit. So the 8 kind of using now all the way up at basically the middle of the track.
Steve, he talked about testing so much he would know every single seam on this racetrack. What does he mean by that? What are drivers feeling? What are the crews looking for in terms of handling when they talk about a seam on a racetrack?
So when you talk about concrete racetracks, unlike a asphalt racetrack that might have seams between the bottom lane, the middle lane, and the top lane, concrete itself is poured a lot, much like your driveway, right? These are in blocks, and when you see it in person, there are these seams, and it's kind of like driving across the interstate. You feel them. You feel them kind of all the way through the corner, really bad into turn 3. I've heard them described as railroad tracks as you turn down into turn 3. This is turn 3 right here. So underneath this bridge, turning to the left, there's a real big bump right before the car lands. And it's in the virtual world as well. It really upsets the car.
It's definitely something, and again, a testament to so many of these drivers. Steve, I know you mentioned it in Countdown to Green, how good these drivers are in the amount of time. They may know some of these racetracks almost, I would say, better than some of the real-world competitors just because of how much time, especially with the iRacing scans, where they can pretty much tell you every inch of this racetrack and where exactly you can run on it. This is a little further back. You can see a pair of Charlotte Phoenix cars right off of in 13th and 14th, and Graham Bolin, my pick, trying to move his way further on up the road. Joey Brown trying to chase him down, and there you can see that transition, and you can see the cars physically move up as they work up off the corner.
Yeah, and you can see kind of on the bottom of the screen, you see the seams in the pavement. So they're not as obvious in the racing groove because the kind of the tire rubber kind of gets smashed into those seams and almost hides them from our eyes as viewers. But the competitors, when you get down to ground level, you can still kind of see them, and you could for sure feel them.
"26 laps in, Steven Wilson trying to chase down Nick Ottinger for second. But Alan, so far, Dylan Duval has not just taken the lead, he has driven away up to the tune of about a second and a half over the rest of the field. And, you know, Dylan Duval, I'd almost want to say, kind of like Garrett Lowe, has had this resurgence in the second half of the season. Unfortunately for him, was not able to grab that win that Garrett Lowe had. But there's a lot of parallels, I think, between what these two drivers have been able to accomplish at this later part of the season. Duval, unfortunately, just not able to make the playoffs and be able to contend for the championship.
Yeah, but still plenty on the line, right? In terms of getting the win and getting those trophies, setting yourself up for next year, building that resume. So having a 1.5 second lead at Dover during this playoff is just showing what he is capable of. Just didn't have the luck and maybe some of the circumstance that he needed earlier this season, but putting it on him right now in terms of building for next year. We can see the battle going on here. That's the defending champion, Casey Kerwin, and Jordy Lopez, the rookie, battling for 11th and 12th right now. In terms of experience, I mean, different sides of the coin right there, but they're both going for it right now, and those are two playoff drivers. Really, you can see the intense focus as they are back in the field, kind of mired in the top 10 right now.
Well, we talk a lot about the playoffs, but let's not overlook relegation. You know, remember, the top 20 drivers are the ones that are invited back to compete next year without having to kind of go through the road to pro and back to the under series. And when I look at the running order, right, you have Strauss in 5th, Keegan Leahy in 9th, a driver I don't ever thought I would see near the relegation line. Keegan just barely in right now in 19th, only 8 points above.
Yeah,
I think Denny and Michael Jordan are working him too much at his real world job. I don't think he gets enough practice this year for Keegan Leahy. That's a testament to his skills, though, but Keegan Leahy not having the year here in the Coke Series that he definitely wants to.
You know, I was talking with Steven Steffen yesterday at Junior Motorsports, and he was talking specifically about Keegan Leahy and the amount of work that he's put in. And, you know, he was admitting that, yes, I'm not able to devote as much time to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series because of the amount of work he's doing at 2311 and helping out that program. So, Alan, I think you make a great point. And, you know, these drivers, when you just barely step them out of their element, we know how good Keegan Leahy has been for such a long time, devoted to other aspects. You got to think, if he's running at 2311, he's not focused on Dover this upcoming weekend, or at least it's probably a couple weeks out from really running a lot of laps at this racetrack. You know, it's different, especially this season, Steve, because, you know, typically we've had this schedule that aligns with the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, but that hasn't been the case this year. I wonder if that's been a slight detriment for Keegan, who hopped into his new role. And as we ride along here in turns 1 and 2, we'll hop aboard and get a vantage point from Keegan Leahy with our Logitech onboard camera. Nearly a third of the distance in here at Dover Motor Speedway. Dylan Duvall leads the field and is looking to go back to victory lane for the first time in 2016, with Nick Ottinger and Steven Wilson looking to secure their place on the stage in Charlotte. We'll be back after this.
It's official. Caleb Williams is transferring.
My man.
To Wendy's for the new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
Everybody say nacho!
Nacho! It's melty, it's crunchy, and it's queso-y. Easiest choice I've ever made. Of course, he's not the only one transferring.
Hey-o! Stable's got room for 2 quarterbacks.
Sorry, and who are you?
Matt Leinart, quarterback, national champion.
Afraid that doesn't ring a bell.
For the full nacho experience from all 4 sides.
Square's the beef.
Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new loaded nacho cheeseburger.
There's a thin line in the NASCAR Xfinity Series between winning and losing.
between being the future and being past, between headlines and tailspins, between making history and being it, between the sweet taste of victory and the fumes of defeat. In the NASCAR Xfinity Series, there's a thin line between being a name they know and being a name they'll never forget.
Coverage of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by Wendy's. When it comes to cheeseburgers, Wendy's heard the assignment. The new loaded nacho cheeseburger has cheese, beef, queso, and even a jalapeno cheddar bun. Now that's cheesy. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. And very quickly under break, Dylan Duval has faded and Nick Ottinger has reassumed the race lead as Duval, again, had about a second or so of an advantage when we went to break. But, Steve, I think you made a great point about the drivers talking about tire wear. I think Dylan Duval, a great example, perhaps pushing them a little too hard early in the run.
Yeah, if you look currently at their lap times, Nick Ottinger about a second off his best lap time. Dylan Duval about 1.2 seconds of tire fall off from his best lap time. And this is just a great view of Dover in general, right? So when we talk about racetracks, normally 1 and 2 would be connected, be one set of corners. At Dover, it's really 2 separate corners. You land, you compress, and now you see the car drift off the apron, makes a turn, and goes back to the apron on exit. This is a corner, while it looks like every other track, it's really 4 separate corners. The landing, the compression of turn 1 is different than turn 2. As you see the replay on the bottom right, this was the pass for the lead, and it looks like Ottinger just was patient, saved some tire, and easily was able to overtake the 41 of Duval.
Yeah, I don't think there was much of a fight put up once Duval saw the 25 coming that quickly. He just decided to get out of the way, and you can see Hurt likely being in some of the dirty air of Nick Ottinger, as he's now going to lose second a little further on back. And it's not only going to be second, he may lose third as well to the rookie and Tucker Minter. And that is a big moment for Tucker Minter, Alan. With these next-gen cars, we know how snappy they can be. That could have ended very poorly for Minter as he got loose kind of in the middle of the straightaway, which, you know, honestly, with these next-gen cars isn't too uncommon here at Dover.
A big moment for the playoff driver and Tucker Minter, and a big moment for the rookie. That's what I'm so interested in terms of some of these drivers who are here for the first time. Tucker Minter's been able to collect the checkered flags this year. This is his first playoff. This is his pursuit of the $100,000. How does he get there? How does he handle this pressure? That was a big moment for him, able to get it back together, pass Dylan Duval, and now he's focused there, up there in third.
There's another driver right here in Donovan Strauss who had an abysmal start to the season, 36th and 33rd to begin our first 2 rounds at Daytona and Milwaukee. Had another 35th at Darlington. But boy, has he really turned it on here these last couple of races. A 3rd and a 9th in 2 of the last 3. And running up here in the top 5, so Donovan Strauss, I think, later on in the season, as he's gained a little bit of experience, Steve, really starting to showcase himself. And we talk about those drivers needing to be ahead in relegation. He's building himself up a nice little cushion right now.
Yeah, that's the idea. Take a little pressure off for the final 2, and a great-looking race car. I'm going to give the painter of that car the Duracell sponsorship. I can see the battery look as it goes around the racetrack. So great design, clean, and doing a really nice job kind of saving those front tires. So easy to kind of burn the front tires off here. And you mentioned about that loose kind of way up off the corner. That's really the deal here, is you see Wilson right up in front. When you get all the way up by that wall, the car gets really, really light, so it's easy to get loose on the straightaways.
Wilson definitely concentrating right here. You know, Alan, I wonder, Tucker Minter's somebody we often see the lean. I wonder if he's leaning a little more with the 24 degrees of banking we see at Dover tonight.
Yeah, it's deceiving just how tall and how much elevation change there is from the bottom of this racetrack to the top. What I'm seeing with Steven Wilson, though, is a lot of wheel in that car, right? As he's going through the corner at the speeds that they're going through. I'm nearly dirt tracking it in terms of the way he's shaking that wheel. That is not something I expected at Dover. But look, he's running in second, so he's doing something right. But as the handling goes away, that wheel seems to go left and right a little more each time.
And it does, and again, you see the difference. Everybody has their own quirks and how they're able to drive this race car. Wilson very steady, and Tucker Minter you can see kind of leaning down into the corner. And you can see trying to get a little bit offline of what he sees from Steven Wilson, just trying to get a little bit of clean air on the nose of his number 33 car. But what an impressive rookie season that he has had here in 2023. Duvall is still fading. Conti has made up that spot on Jordi Lopez to get up into the top 7. And, you know, we haven't talked about him yet, but how about Parker White, somebody else who at this second juncture of the season has really started to click and find some speed here in the latter half of his rookie campaign.
Guys, as we close in on 55 complete now, we're going to lap 55. There's not a tougher place that I know of to pit under green. So, you know, we thought they could go 65 to 70 on fuel. I know we had a yellow, so we had some caution flags, which might help them extend that a little bit. But this is, I think, it has to be the hardest, I think, to get cleanly onto pit road. This track probably ranks #1 on the circuit. So it'll be interesting to see who spent any time practicing that in preparation for this race, because normally it's a caution-filled race. You know, you don't think about green flag pit stops at Dover. With 65 to go, we're probably 10 to 15 laps away from potential green flag pit stops.
Steve, is this the type of track where the window opens, 65 to go? Do you go early? Do you go late? Is that a conversation you're having with your team?
I think it's a conversation you're having. The problem is at a 24-second lap time, you're going to lose probably 2 laps. It's very dangerous to pit on the front side. But with 1 second of tire fall off, there's a big advantage. You know, 60 to go would be splitting it dead in the middle. I think if you're having an average day and you're not a playoff car, you're not in risk of relegation, gamble and try to get that potential win. But if you're trying to count points, I don't think you can afford to come early.
Again, Nutt Gottinger was running 22.7s to start this run. He's now running 24.3s. And I guess in preparation for this race, I did some laps myself and saw that the fuel window was going to be anywhere from about 95 to 100 laps for this race in terms of how far they could go. So, Steve, I'll pitch the question to you. If you're a playoff contender and you can go that long with the potential of the yellow, I feel like you're probably leaning towards staying out a little bit longer because you don't want to get trapped. But if you're not in the playoffs, you don't have to worry about that. Maybe halfway would be a way to gain time, but you don't have to worry about the risk involved with pitting.
Well, that's what we see, both in the eNASCAR and the regular NASCAR series. When we move into the playoffs, I call it agendas. Agendas change. And for that reason, race strategy changes. Although when you look at this Hornet's Nest right here, I'm not feeling really good about coming early. This could easily turn into a yellow, slipping and sliding on old tires. So I would probably be the guy that waits and try to, make time up a different way. It's just too big of a risk to come early with races like this. So as I say that, here comes a couple cars. Heavy on the brakes, lap 60, dead in the middle. But here's what happens. The car spinning in pit road hits the end of pit lane.
Joey Brown, we're going to stay green as, yes, this is a difficult place to get down. He squeezes his car up into the barrels here as they try to get on pit lane. Steven Wilson is going to pit Tucker Minter as well. So the window is open, and they are coming here at halfway. Ottinger staying out, but Wilson, Minter, and a couple more playoff contenders trying to make their way down to the pits.
This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, for tire usage, halfway is absolutely right? Run the same amount of laps on both sets of tires. That was really nicely done by the 25 of Ottinger getting on the pit road. So, the engineering system would say pit in the middle. The counter, though, as we see White stay on the racetrack, is a yellow, and all of these cars are going to be laps behind.
And look who's sitting there in third. Before this pit sequence, guys, Bobby Zielinski had made it up to 11th. Again, he started in the back of the field with a pit penalty. He was able to catch up a little bit with the early caution, but Bobby Zielinski now running third. Maybe he long pits this thing, but he drove himself up to 11th. He's a contender tonight.
He was fast, but again, I think you have to wonder here if you're Bobby Zalenski, you're looking at the points deficit that you're having to make up after starting from pit road. All things considered, he got the early caution that he needed, but how long do you push it? Well, he's not going to go any longer. He's going to go ahead, slow down, and bring his car down to the pits. And locks up. We'll hope that he doesn't get a black flag.
Sometimes you can just tell it looks fast, right? I mean, we can't see the speedometer, or we can't see how fast they're going. It just looks fast sometimes when they're entering pit road.
That it does. Again, one more time, we'll show you Joey Brown as he was getting down into the pit lane. You can see Michael Cozy Jr., who had the lead for just a moment, also coming down to get service on his race car. And that's a difficult spot to be, Steve, where you're kind of straddling the apron and the banking. That's going to be a place where if you put your car, it's going to be really difficult to try to slow it down and control it.
That's what makes pit entry here so difficult, is you have to lift actually earlier than you would normally lift for turn 3 just to get down to the speed where you're able to turn onto that apron. And then you mentioned it really all the way back at the pace laps, right? The banking difference between the apron and the track really unloads and upsets the car.
That it does. As you can see, Garrett Lowe, your Championship 4 driver, is already up front. And Alan, I was talking to somebody on Garrett Lowe's iRacing team a little bit earlier this week, and he said that Garrett Lowe has not run a single lap of practice for Dover. So he's already out here at Dover, and I got to say, I don't blame him. He's already at Homestead. He's already putting that time in, getting familiar with that racetrack. We saw what that was able to do for Casey Kerwin last year, kind of getting that early entry into the Championship 4. Garrett Lowe trying to do the same. And again, his eyes are completely set on Homestead, Miami. He's not worried about Dover. He's not worried about Phoenix.
If he hasn't practiced at Dover, I hope he's making every lap he can at Homestead, thinking about that 100,000, thinking about the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Trophy, thinking about the NASCAR Hall of Fame and the live event. Whatever you can do to prep yourself for that live event, which was so unique, what we did last year, and even the drivers were telling us how unique of a situation that is. Garrett Lowe needs to do that, should take advantage of it. Right now he finds himself in the lead with nothing to lose, doing something, a different strategy, long pitting a little bit. He can do whatever he wants here. Here's Steven Wilson on the tires. You can see the tire difference here, just passing a bunch of cars, even though he's a lap down.
And Steve, this is...
Yeah, working hard to try to gain the time back.
I would say this would worry me if I was somebody that was on this tire strategy, because the speed difference, the amount of cars that these guys are going to be passing, the odds of a yellow, I think, are only increased with how many cars we saw pit.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the big thing you're hoping for, I mean, the whole play to run long is you're losing time to new tires. The only way this works is to get a yellow. If you do not get a yellow, you are losing a second a lap. So if these guys pitted 8 or 10 laps before you, you're going to be at least 10 seconds behind where you were before the pit cycle started. But as that move gets my attention, as he splits the two cars, that is the move you're looking to hope it goes bad and a yellow comes out if you're Lowe, Mullis, or Guess, the 3 playoff cars that have yet to pit.
As you look on board from Garrett Lowe, the least amount of cautions we've seen at an oval this season was 3 at Darlington. The only 2 races we didn't have a caution, well, that was at road courses where we don't throw cautions. So
wow,
wonder if you have to wonder if you're going to get it. But so far, with 49 laps to go, a little bit past the halfway point, still clean and green. But Garrett Lowe letting a couple of drivers get back onto the lead lap at this point. See Steven
really
Wilson.
That run between Steven Wilson and Ottinger, in my opinion, right now. Ottinger is, we saw this earlier, right? Ottinger had pace, went up, took the lead, maybe ran a little too hard on those tires, and right before pit stops kind of gave the lead back up. Now we'll see if that's his handling characteristics of his car, if it will take a different approach.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Wilson coming down just a couple laps before Steven Wilson was able to net Wilson a little bit of track position. We'll see if he's able to make it. Actually just heard somebody, I think, clutching one of those drivers that was staying out. I think it was the 66 of Tyler Gary that may be letting some drivers by.
Oh, a big slide by the 10. Gets a little bit loose on corner exit, and the 25 of Ottinger is going to take advantage. Are they going to contend? They are. The 10's going to drive in on his right side. This is a very difficult position for the 25, and that gets close.
A battle, essentially a battle for the lead here is what we're seeing between the two playoff drivers. This is great.
This would be the battle for the lead through the pit road cycle. It's Wilson about a car length up or so on Nick Ottinger, and I think kind of showing how difficult it has been. We've seen a lot of passes tonight, Steve, with drivers able to go on the outside and really carry that momentum off. It's been difficult for those drivers on the inside, especially on the exit here at Dover, because there's so little room to try and make that pass.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a much better car, I think going to the inside is a safer position. You know that you're more in control, but when you're equally matched like these two cars are, you have to do exactly what the 25 is doing right there. You carry a little more entry speed, and you just try to roll to the middle faster and take away that line on exit. That's kind of what he's trying to do. Once again, you see a lane up, a little bit fresher air to the car of the 25, then he turns down and he enters higher, but exits really in the same lane.
That indeed he is doing. Again, battle for the lead through the cycle would be between Wilson and Ottinger. So far, 3 playoff contenders have yet to come down and pit. Garrett Lowe, Jimmy Mullis, and Michael Guest. Your top 3 in the postseason that have not pit. Again, Malik Ray running right now in the 3rd position. Somebody who came up just shy at Pocono of being able to make the postseason and was the first driver on points that was not able to transfer in to the postseason. But Malik Ray, again, easily, Allen, above that relegation line. We'll be seeing Malik Ray back here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, should this continue in 2024. 41 laps to go here at Dover Motor Speedway. We have yet to fully complete this pit road cycle as Steven Wilson trying to lead the cars that have pit, but Garrett Lowe sitting in the championship for gambling on strategy here at Dover.
I need to try it first.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need: Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
This is where it all starts.
The Southern 500 is underway.
Darlington. Here, the walls can talk. And folks, they're gonna have their say. So, you want to be a NASCAR champion?
The round of 16 begins this evening.
Taming Darlington is your first step. And boy, is it a doozy. The NASCAR playoffs begin at Darlington on USA.
eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, back with you live from Dover Motor Speedway, is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Logitech, through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by Makoni Setup Shop. Makoni Setup Shop is the original iRacing setup shop and is trusted by real-world and virtual professionals to get the job done. Visit MakoniSetupShop.com to see why they are the official setup shop of eNASCAR and choose a subscription to save money. Makoni Setup Shop, our setups, your victories. Trouble out on the racetrack for Michael Guest, who was running in the 3rd position. We'll see the caution flag for the first time with 35 laps to go, and the rest of the field making their way down to the pits.
And this is a great opportunity for those cars that stayed out, because we have run far enough after the green flag pit stops that even the cars that had come to pit road, the Ottinger car, the Wilson car, I think they're going to come to pit road again for another set of tires, is what I would assume they would want to do. So in this case, this is going to be a cycle to the front for Lowe, Mullis, and some of the guys that had track position.
Not everybody is going to pit, though. Several cars electing to stay out. But Michael Guest was the one that had an issue off of turn number 2 that brought out this latest caution flag. You can see staying out. One of the cars is Colin Bowden in the 69 for eRacer off of pit road. It looks like it'll be Nick Ottinger, I believe, of the cars that did pit. No, it'll be several others who elected to take 2, but we'll take a look back. Guest a little bit off the pace, and you can see just having an issue there. I believe overheated the right rear tire. And that's enough to trigger the caution flag here at Dover.
And is that the risk of staying out? He is one of those cars that had not pitted yet. What, about 80-plus laps on that set of tires as we were getting closer and closer to him, maybe even running out of fuel. Then the handling issue takes out or hurts a playoff driver.
Hearing it was a flat tire from Michael Guest. It was a flat right rear tire that he was trying to control up there in 1 and 2. So that'll reset everything here up at the front of the field. Again, plenty of cars you could see that have stayed out or electing to take the wave around as they were not able to get back on the lead lap. It'll be Garrett Lowe of the cars that pitted. Again, this is one of the benefits of being able to get that race win at Michigan a little bit earlier on. You take the gamble of strategy. Not only that, but Steve talked about the amount of sets of tires left on pit road. Everybody that stayed out, they saved an extra set of Goodyear Eagles versus the rest of the field.
Exactly. So if you look at Lowe and Mullis, those cars have the same amount of laps now with fresh tires versus Wilson and Ottinger, but the difference is, you know, the guys up top have 2 sets in their pits. Now with 34 to go, I'm not sure they're going to have time to use them, but you just never know. Now that we've kind of put the field back together, there's really no telling what could happen for more cautions. And now you talk about the wave around cars, that's what these cars are doing. They're going to pass the pace car and get a lap back.
They are. Remember, your top 2 had some issues at Nashville a little bit earlier this year. Garrett Lowe and Jimmy Mullis. We'll take a look back at how that one played out as the cars will get the wave around here. Again, a lot happening at this racetrack, but this was the finish. Jimmy Mullis goes low to block. Garrett Lowe goes to the outside. And this is what eventually sparked Garrett Lowe changing the paint scheme, running the Kyle Petty protest cars. He felt he was unfairly raced. He gets hit up into the wall. Mullis goes on to win, gets his spot in the playoffs. At the time, the postseason was uncertain for Garrett Lowe. He gets back, and now Garrett Lowe has nothing to lose. Jimmy Mullis has everything to gain trying to win this race.
And that's what Steve was talking about. The agendas you mentioned, Steve. Garrett Lowe has nothing to lose. He can risk it by running long. Probably could have run out of gas if he wanted to. He's still going to the Homestead Championship race. And then you had Jimmy Mullis, who needed to gain a lot, needed to do something different. That gamble paid off for the 46.
We'll see if it works out for them. Steven Wilson back in 3rd as we get back underway here with 33 laps to go. Garrett Lowe clear into the race lead. He'll be up a car length on Jimmy Mullis, trying to bring along Steven Wilson. 3 your playoff contenders, 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. So far, so good up front. Right now, the battle for 4th is Malik Ray. Almost gets into Nick Ottinger. Ottinger trying to get back up front. Again, was pushed back because of the pit road cycle. He gets the tag of the wall off at 2. Several cars into the fence. Now Wilson looks low on Jimmy Mullis for 2nd.
Yeah, that shallow entry for Wilson is going to hurt his mid-corner speed, and for that reason, the 25 is now going to have a run. The 25 is going to continue that momentum. Oh, as we see a big defensive move out of the 7 behind them.
Malik Ray shuts the door on Tucker Minter, trying to move his way forward. Meanwhile, Nick Ottinger has been on it on this restart. Already up into 4th, looking high and trying to arc down low to build up a run on Steven Wilson as there's a wreck in the back of the field. Caution is out, and it is off of turn number 4 and parked down to the inside. I believe that is Michael Cozy Jr., who was spun around here on the front straightaway. Doesn't look like he hit anything too hard, although there may be a couple of playoff contenders that were involved in this one.
These restarts so intense. The easiest time, the best time to get positions once again. That's the farthest we've seen Nick Ottinger really back there in traffic. I'm interested to see how he navigates that all. Was able to pick off a few spots very quickly. These restarts will only help that faster car.
In 29 laps to go, I don't think it was long enough that you would consider coming down and getting new tires at this point. You'd likely just want to keep your track position. As we'll take a look, I believe it's going to be Casey Kerwin, Bobby Zielinski. Look at the 75 of Zach Novak. Looks in the middle, 3 wide. Not sure if Femi Olot was expecting that. Zielinski gets squeezed. And oh, hard on the wall, that's Vicente Salas. Bobby Zielinski collected a fair amount of damage as well. That's how it all unfolds off of turn 4. Just a 3 wide move that I just, if you're the 18, or rather not the 18, the 43, I just don't think you expected it. As we'll take one more look. This is on board of Derek Justice. Nice job of driving in his quick trip Toyota, all things considered.
Yeah, I think you absolutely called it, right? I think Zielinski just doesn't realize he's at the bottom of 3 wide. I think the 75 kind of took advantage of that position. And in the end, just not enough real estate.
Tight confines here at Dover as we see our second caution flag of the evening so far. Again, many of the drivers, just as we predicted, passing the opportunity to try and pit this time. But your top 4 rather now after that restart have been playoff contenders. Nick Ottinger, Alan, just had an incredible start, and to be honest with you, I think was holding back a little bit earlier on in the race. Had a really fast car on the long run. I think was saving his stuff a little bit early, but I think he is starting, he may be the car to beat here tonight, as I believe we're going to let you catch up here with instead our race leader, who has had one heck of the last few months in Garrett Lowe.
Garrett with that nothing to lose attitude, taking the risk, and on strategy, now you find yourself in the lead. Garrett, congratulations. That risk paid off. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have anything to lose, so we decided to try it, and we were about to just kind of take our pride and go down pit road there, and I was about 2 laps away from just saying, okay, it's enough. Glad we didn't. Obviously, it's worked out so far. Just obviously, we didn't prepare well for this race because we didn't need to. So yeah, I know I'm not maybe there on pace, but we're still gonna put up a fight for it.
Yeah, you've got fast cars behind you. That 25 is looking very racy, but other cars that need that win, want that win like you have to get to Homestead. What's it going to take to hold them off? How do you do it if you don't feel you have the pace?
Just drive it hard enough, I guess. Yeah.
All right, we'll let you concentrate up there. Leading, again, paying off different agendas that Steve Letarte mentioned, that Garrett Lowe, he was on one that didn't need to prepare as much, didn't need to worry about the things that all the other drivers have to worry about, was able to take a risk. It has paid off. He has found himself at the front of the field with just 26 laps to go.
Another thing I noticed on that restart, going back to your pre-race show, you were talking about respect between playoff and non-playoff drivers, and that's really what caught my attention when Malik Ray in that 7 and that big defensive move he made with the block. You look at the current running order, right, with so many playoff drivers near the front, it doesn't seem to bother the non-playoff drivers to be very defensive or aggressive when moving forward.
Well, again, I think you have to look back at even some real-world scenarios. Think about Joey Logano, Matt Kenseth several years ago. Logano already locked into the next round. He races a little too aggressively. That comes back to bite him. Does the same happen with Garrett Lowe here as he tries to hang on over Jimmy Mullis and 3 other drivers directly behind him who could use this win to get into the championship 4. Back into the Geico restart zone. 25 laps to go here at Dover. Garrett Lowe with the launch gets cleared. They're almost side by side for second as here comes the Audi boss on the top side looking for third off of turn 2.
Can't quite clear the 10 if you're Nick Ottinger. Trying to get all you can, though, early on this restart. He is 2 by 2 as the two in front of him drive away and give a little space there.
Yeah, I think this is just going to have to be a patience tester for the 25 of Ottinger. He has the preferred line. He can just hold that 10 down just like that on exit. Do that for a couple more laps, and I think he can clear him. I know he sees the leaders getting smaller as they're pulling away, but you just have to continue to work. And I think right here, I thought he was going to clear, but still side by side by about a foot.
Just needs a little bit more to pull away from that side draft, and I believe he's going to get it off of 2. But back up front, Jimmy Mullis, everything to win. Garrett Lowe with nothing to lose. Here comes Jimmy Mullis peeking down to the inside with 23 laps to go. How hard does he push it, and how does he race the driver who's already in the championship 4? We've seen these two race hard before. How hard are they going to race now?
Look,
well,
we know what Jimmy Mullis will do.
Concerned. Well, and you got to be concerned because Ottinger's coming, right? You're faster than the 15, so you're going to have to be aggressive. You can't sit here for 22 more laps. I mean, Ottinger on that last lap is faster than the 2 leaders.
Oh, they nearly wrecked right behind him with Tucker Minter side by side. A little further back with Malik Ray. Ottinger is the fastest car on the racetrack, so I think you made a great point, Steve. If you're going to make that move, you're going to have to do it soon if you're Jimmy Mullis, as Mullis has been really driving hard on the entry of the corner, trying to get a little bit of clean air, build that run back off. But Ottinger right now in his own ballpark, 22.7. He's nearly a 10th clear of the top 2 each lap.
This is what separates the good from the best in terms of you have the circumstances of the playoffs, the race coming down with 20 to go, everything going on. Oh, big crash.
Oh, trouble. That is Femi Olot into the inside wall. Malik Ray is in it as well. And again, Malik Ray was up in the 6th position when they made contact. And we'll see what happened to Malik Ray, who may have gotten tagged and tried to hold it together. I believe Casey Kerwin was almost a part of this wreck as well, so we will set aside the battle for the lead for now as Nick Ottinger has made his way up into the 3rd position. We'll take one more look at it. Middle of turns 1 and 2. Look at Malik Ray in the 7. Had a vicious battle back here with Tucker Minter. Minter goes into the corner. Ray gets into the back of him, drifts up the racetrack, and there's Donovan Strauss. He has a huge run down to the inside, makes contact. Ray goes around. Novak gets a part of it as well. Tony Kanaan Esports duo looks like they get through it unscathed, but Malik Ray, strong run, thrown out the window late as we take another look. Casey Kerwin.
Ooh. That's your defending champion there, just skating through. You see Michael Conti on the inside. I mean, Malik was having such a good day at the front of the field. Anything that happens up there, again, the contact.
Well, it starts again with the defensive driving by the 33. That makes the 7 have a shallow entry into the corner, and then he slides up. And, you know, with 50 or 60 to go, I think the 51 gives him some space. But as the laps start to count down, I think Strauss thinks this is his opportunity to get a fender inside the 7. The 7 comes back down the hill. I mean, I'm going to have to put that, though, on the 51. I think that's a little aggressive spot of the corner to drive to the inside of the 7. I'm not sure you gave the 7 a lot of options.
And we're talking about how aggressive non-playoff drivers would be. It was 2 non-playoff drivers that were involved in that incident. You could also see further on back Femi Olot getting spun. Not a lot of damage on that 43 car, but nevertheless gets tagged in all of that. It looks like about 4 or 5 cars or so. That's it as far as cars that elected to come down and pit this time. So I'd imagine at this point, if you're staying out, you're in this position, you're likely have seen pit road for the last time. You're not coming back down for fresh tires any longer.
Well, I think as the tires cool under caution, they fire off pretty good for 3 or 4 laps. So I think you have to, even though new tires are going to be an advantage, you know, how many cars can you really pass? And I really think this is exactly what Garrett Lowe was looking for. I think he was holding up Mullis. I think Mullis was feeling the pressure from Ottinger, and it was only a matter of time until he was pushed into making a more aggressive move. Now, if Lowe continues to be as good as he is in the restart zones, you know, he should be able to jump out to that 1 or 2 car length gap and kind of hold that gap. So I think this caution is actually a benefit to the 15.
And Blake, look at the standings. Yeah, look at the standings on the right side of the screen there. If Garrett Lowe or Nick Ottinger get a victory, they vault to the top and they have nothing to worry about. They get a spot in Homestead. If they don't get a victory here right now with 17 laps to go, look where they may find themselves, on the bottom of the playoff standings, worried about next week when we go to Phoenix, trying to get a spot up there in Homestead. So Garrett has his spot, but I'm thinking about Jimmy Mullis and the 25 of Nick Ottinger, how important those 1 or 2 spots may be.
Yeah, how desperate do you get? Because if you're Jimmy Mullis right now, you're not looking good as far as the points are concerned. And this is one of the unique things about the playoffs here versus real life. You can survive the Cup Series playoffs. We go from 16 to 12 down to 8, and really in the later rounds is when you really have to start performing well. You just don't have to be the worst in the first couple of rounds. Here in eNASCAR, we go from 10 down to 4, so it is all about executing. And if we get a second new winner, just look at Jimmy Mullis. He took the lead just for a moment there while they were side by side, and that's how live our points are, that even pacing side by side. You could see how much that changes the playoff picture. Only 2 drivers would be in on points, with a potential only 1 if we get another new winner at Phoenix. So it is just amazing how much it changes and how tight the margins are here in the Coke Series.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the round of 8. Right, which is my favorite round of the playoffs. You go from 8 to 4. This is really 10 to 4. You see all the red roof numbers, all the red windshield banners. They're stacked up. You think about Minter, the 33 at the bottom of the screen in the 3rd row. Same situation really as Mullis and Ottinger. He can't feel great about his point situation.
8 of your top 10 are now playoff drivers. 16 laps to go here at Dover. Desperate drivers. We'll see what desperate moves they make. As Barney the Flagman watches on, we'll turn him loose once again. Garrett Lowe looks like he has enough on this jump to get clear of Jimmy Mullis. Indeed he is. Here comes Nick Ottinger down to the bottom. Had the fastest car as of late and now trying to make the move on Jimmy Mullis for second.
Yeah, and right now, if you're Garrett Lowe, you're hoping these two stay side by side for as long as possible, but no such luck. Ottinger will clear into second, and that is not what Lowe wanted. The 25 had speed before the yellow, and now it looks like the 10 continues to press as he loses a spot.
Wilson looked a little loose there in the middle of 1 and 2. He may give up a spot with Tucker Minter building up some steam off of the second corner, but now it is just a car length between Ottinger and Lowe as we are slowed once again by the caution flag, and for the second straight caution, it looks like almost verbatim of where he ended up in the last wreck. Femi Olot has spun on the back straightaway.
And the 15 side, breathes a sigh of relief and knows he'll have the opportunity to fire as the leader again in the restart. So this really plays what Ottinger does. Now that I can really watch his line, the reason he is so fast is because he doesn't force the car to do much. You watch some of these guys kind of go in and try to go right around the apron, where the 25 kind of runs a little bit higher. Let's see exactly what happened on the bottom here for the 43. Oh, he just gets tight.
Man.
Goes up the racetrack, makes contact in the door, and then starts to kind of lose the back of it down the straightaway.
Well, again, the way this car unloads in the next gen, I mean, that is not a hard hit, but it's enough to get this car where if you're wheeling it down the straightaway, you're not expecting it. How they have the setups in these cars, it's very easy for it to just snap to the right. And Alan, that's one thing we've kind of come to know about these next-gen cars. It's the same in real life. It's the same in iRacing, that you lose a little bit of that downforce, that car gets going the wrong direction. There's so many things on this car that kind of work against you being able to save it.
And we see the sensitivity of the car. And I know it's cliche at this track to call it self-cleaning, but these last 2 wrecks, we see what happens, even on the straightaway, the banking and how quickly you go down to the wall. And I'm surprised that that last wreck with Femi wasn't a little bigger in terms of collecting more cars, so we're lucky in that front. And kudos to Nick Ottinger up there in the 25. Each restart, he's been able to pick off one or two positions, 1 position at a time. Now he'll start on the same row as Garrett Lowe. Made it a lot easier for himself as these laps tick down. Restart much better than trying to erase a 1 second gap or so while we're green.
So 12 laps to go. We are under the caution flag for a 4th time. I know, again, I think I jinxed the field. I shouldn't have brought up 3 cautions was the least amount we had on an oval earlier while we were caution free. We've had a couple of them since then. So I believe this time by will be 1 to go. You can see all the red on the banner. We talked about early on the mix of non-playoff drivers and playoff drivers alike, but it is all Coca-Cola red so far at the front of the field. As Garrett Lowe leads, Steven Wilson trying to track him down. We'll let our very own Steve Letarte catch up with Steven as he's riding here in the 4th spot.
Well, Steven, I don't want to distract you. I see you're getting some work in there. So far, so good. You kind of were the wrong side of the strategy, a kind of an untimely yellow, kind of loss of track position. How's the 10 car feeling here with about 10 to go?
10 car's pretty good. It's a bit tight on the short run here, especially arrow-wise underneath a car, behind a car, but everybody's dealing with the same thing. So I'm actually on 2 tires up here. It's holding on pretty well. I think it's pretty good for the short runs we'll have, but I was hoping I'd come out in the lead with that strategy, but Garrett and Jimmy just had too much of a lap car buffer. So we're definitely going to give it our all, though, in this Smithfield Ford Mustang, and hopefully we can come home with a win for the pig.
All right, man. Well, good luck. I've seen this paint scheme, this 10 and this Smithfield paint scheme run very good at Dover in real life. It's looking good again here today.
That it is. And again, Wilson looking to get back to the stage after his appearance in the Championship 4 last season. We'll let him line up on the outside of row 2 is where he'll take the green flag. Is now we get the 1 to go. Despite the fact that we've seen a number of drivers moving up the running order, we have not seen a lot of changing on the right-hand side of your screen in terms of the playoff standings. It's still Wilson, it's still Michael Guest, Jordy Lopez, several of the contenders who ride up front right now.
And what Steven Wilson just described is absolutely Dover. I mean, that's what happens, right? You take 2 tires for track position. 2 tires normally drive a little bit tighter because the left sides have air pressure built up. He talked about being aero tight. All of those things are what makes this track so difficult to drive, and being tight on the short run because it normally builds free at Dover. You lose rear grip, but now with under 10 to go when they take the green, it's going to be all about a sprint to the finish.
In that one position, can't emphasize that enough. What that one difference from 2nd to 1st can do for the 46 of Jimmy Mullis, for the 25 of Nick Ottinger, where it will shoot them from where they are currently in the points. 10 to go at Dover means everything to them, Blake.
When we come to the green flag, it'll be 9 laps to go. You'll see it high atop our blimp camera as we'll take the green flag. Garrett Lowe once again clear to the race lead. Ottinger may have Mullis for 2nd as he rides up the racetrack, but Garrett Lowe trying to run away and secure a 2nd consecutive victory here in the playoffs.
Ottinger works very hard to clear Mullis. That's very important for the 25's opportunity there. Now into 2nd in the tire tracks of the 15. 8 to go. We'll see if the 25 can find the pace.
Ottinger pulling up to the back bumper of Garrett Lowe with a couple laps to go. Wilson further on back, able to clear Jimmy Mullis, and Tucker Minter's also going to try to go by for the 4th spot. But you can see Ottinger working slightly a different line than Lowe, who may have tagged the wall off of 4. Ottinger gets a run. He'll peek down to the inside. Almost contact made as they work through the center of 1 and 2.
Back in the 4th position, you see Lopez and Minter side by side for Team Dillon. As now we have a battle for the lead. The 25 gets to the bottom. Can the 15 stay on his quarter panel? He can't. Ottinger will clear him. And now a battle for 2nd as the 10's going to try to follow the 25 through.
Just too strong right now is Nick Ottinger as he got the move done in relatively short order. Ottinger back to the point here at Dover Motor Speedway. Wilson and Mullis trying to linger on and gain as many points as they can to try and ease their way to the Championship 4 here with 5 to go. But right now, Ottinger would be the 2nd of your Championship 4 if he can lock his way in with just 5 to go.
'15 driving a pretty defensive line, entering maybe a quarter of a groove up, then shutting the door on the 10. The 10 trying to be patient. He knows laps are running out, but you can only do so much. He's got to look now to the inside. The 15 is going to climb the banking, try to get it turned and say it was outside. I don't believe he's going to be able to do it. The 10 will clear, but does he have enough speed or time with only 3 to go to run Ottinger down?
Yeah, he lets by Steven Wilson as he went way up the racetrack line. He hasn't run all evening long. Wilson gets by for second. I'm sure Mola's going to try to do the same here. And again, we've seen this before at Michigan. A lot happened in the back of the field to flip this race. Is it going to happen here? 2 to go now for Nick Ottinger.
2 to go, and just a touch faster Wilson is than Ottinger, but only 0.05 of a second.
It's not much.
We saw the patience pay off for the 10. Maybe too little too late on those 2 tires, but if he comes from second place to get past, 1 lap to go, Blake.
They'll come around and see the white flag this time. One more trip around Dover Motor Speedway for Nick Ottinger, the former series champion, looking to get back to championship form as he has a 3-car length lead at Dover into 3 and 4 for the final time. It looks like it's not going to be enough for Steven Wilson, and Nick Ottinger has secured his spot in the championship 4. He wins at Dover Motor Speedway. And so far, it is 2 in Nick Ottinger and Garrett Lowe that will be fighting for $100,000 at Charlotte. And no doubt about it, guys, I think Nick Ottinger, when you think about the cars that were able to make moves, he clearly had a piece tonight that he was able to go where others were not able to tread, as Ottinger will pull it onto the front straightaway and enjoy his Coca-Cola winning moment. Ottinger will burn it down on the front straightaway as we take a look back at the Coca-Cola move of the race. It was incredible the amount of speed that Ottinger was able to carry, but it was in 3 and 4, Alan, that he was able to make the winning move.
And was able to have the patience and use the best car all night to get the win. Steve, you've seen it plenty of times. The best car, the fastest car, best driver, not always getting the win when they have that opportunity. Nick Ottinger was able to do it tonight.
Yeah, and had an obstacle, was kind of at the wrong end of the strategy, went with the kind of pit in the middle of the race. The caution got him behind, but he was very meticulous. Saved the fenders, didn't have any damage to his car, and worked his way up to the lead.
And after he got the lead, he was long gone. As Ottinger gets it done, goes back to victory lane, and actually gets his first win of the season. After winning his 24th pole, he is now just one of 2 drivers who has won 20 career races in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. While Nick is kind of working his way up into here, we'll go ahead and talk to Steven Wilson as we'll throw it down to Alan, who's standing by with somebody that we're talking to for the 2nd race in a row.
Yeah, Steven Wilson coming home second, just short of that win, but you were able to make it up and make that final pass in that last stint to get up to second. How do you feel about your night overall, knowing that that 25 was the car to beat?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. You know, obviously me and Nick were 1-2 running before that on the green flag run. So I think, honestly, he was pretty good. So I think it was pretty deserving for him. He was really fast and lots of clean moves to get there. So good win to him. And yeah, and, you know, I was pretty happy. I was telling after that last restart, I think that interview right before gave me superpowers because the car was flying right after that. But if I had a couple more laps, I think I could have gotten there. But I'll take it again. Nice points, and hopefully we can just finish the job at Phoenix and get into Homestead.
You're one of those few drivers that knows what it's like to get to the championship for that live event. Now it all comes down to Phoenix. You just mentioned. When does that start coming into the forefront of your mind and you start practicing those laps out in the desert?
Yeah, I'll probably start practicing pretty soon. You know, I gotta do some schoolwork here before I head up to Darlington in the real world this weekend. So it'll probably won't start till next week. But yeah, I've got a lot of laps there, obviously from last year too. So I know what to do, and I know my teammates will practice well for me over the next week, and they'll bring a good setup at Phoenix.
Well, congratulations. Good run tonight. Just short, but you were still very much alive to make a reappearance in the championship 4. Congrats.
Thanks.
Well, the man that won tonight, Nick Ottinger. First of all, congratulations. Shockingly, with so many laps led, the first win of the year. Other races looked like that was going to be, but this car was not to be denied tonight.
Yeah, first off, I have to give a huge shout out to my crew chief, Brandon Hastings, our race strategist on the 25 Logitech G team. And he adjusted the car like we needed for a short run, and it played into our favor. I was using the tires up quite a bit, obviously, at the end, but, you're going for a spot in the final 4. You're gonna go all out. So got to thank our supporters, Logitech G, Warren Bauer Esports. I'm glad to get William a win this year. We've been knocking on that door forever. And like I told people heading into the playoffs, we got some strong tracks for our team. And, we're looking forward to Homestead now because that's another strong track for our team.
Let's talk about that. The Championship 4, it will be at Homestead, but you have to leave the comfort of your normal surroundings and bring your rig to the Hall of Fame in front of the live audience. It was a great event last year. How excited are you to be a part of it for this season?
Very excited. Watching last year, we had a good run getting into our playoffs with our team, and we just didn't have playoffs to get to the Final 4. Huge congrats to Casey again for winning it in such a prestigious atmosphere. I think when you have such a the industry coming together, sim racing, NASCAR folks, all people who love sim racing and motorsports in general, it's it's something special, and it was nice to be shared at the Hall of Fame. So at the end of the day, I want our team to be holding that trophy at the end when it comes that time, and I think we can do it.
Well, congratulations. It was an impressive run. You had a little adversity with a timely yellow and a little bit of strategy, but in the end, really, really impressive drive.
Yeah, thank you, man. See you guys there.
Well, Garrett, I thought you were going to steal your second win of the playoffs. A strategy worked your way, and then restart after restart. You did such a nice job through the restart zone, kind of jumping out there. But it just looked like overall it came down to pace. The 25, the 10 had just a little more pace at the end. Is that what it was like from behind the wheel?
Yeah, pretty much. And we kind of hit the strategy. We really, like I said earlier, we really didn't have too much of a reason to not. We just want to try something different. It's not normally something we do. But yeah, it was something out of left field. We wanted to try it. It worked out for us. Got to the lead, led some laps tonight. I guess it's good to keep in the rhythm as far as leading laps and being up at the front. But yeah, we had a really good car. It's just we didn't have had quite the pace we were used to, just because we hadn't put in quite as much effort. We've been focusing our efforts elsewhere, as I think most people would understand. But yeah, we had a great car. Big thanks to Big Green Egg and everybody at Jim Beaver Esports and Legacy Esports for putting together another hot rod. We'll go see what we can do at Phoenix again.
Well, you mentioned your preparation is ahead at Homestead. I totally agree. That's where I'd be focused if I knew I had a chance at a championship. Now you know one of the 4 that will be joining you on stage at the Hall of Fame. Nick Ottinger, does that change anything? What's your thoughts with Nick joining you as one of the championship 4 so far?
Doesn't change really too much. I mean, I think I'm going to be racing against 3 other guys no matter what. So at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be racing against 3 of the best in the series. So I'm going to have to put our best foot forward no matter what, and be ready to go when we get there.
Well, congratulations to follow up a win with another potential win and another top 3. Strong showing right away in the playoffs.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.
Again, appreciate our top 3 catching up with us. Our top 5 tonight, top 6, top 7, top 8, as a matter of fact, all playoff contenders. It was all red at the front of the field. And unfortunately for some of our playoff contenders, Steve, that means, well, you didn't really make up a whole lot of points unless you're Nick Ottinger getting that win.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the top was stacked, so there wasn't a lot of points moving around. And when you look at the team battle between kind of William Byron and Dylan, William Byron gets the win, but Team Dylan consistent 5th and 6th. A great run out of the whole organization. But it is going to be so much fun at Phoenix because the playoff guys are bringing all the pace.
Certainly is. You could see Michael Guest, another playoff driver, in 12th. We talked about Kevin King earlier in 15th. Bobby Zielinski utilized that strategy, had a little bit of damage, managed to salvage a 14th place finish tonight. Strong run for that 18, and even Brandon McKissick bringing it home in 17th spot. A good run for that 36 car.
Yeah, Brandon's learning a lot about, I call it the deep end of the pool. This eNASCAR Coca-Cola series is no joke. Everyone here is just so good.
See throughout the field a couple more drivers. There was a pretty violent accident on the last lap involving, I believe, Dylan Duvall and Garrett Maines. You can see the results as they scroll on down. That will indeed be the case. Garrett Maines and Duvall a little further on back the road.
Tough for Duvall after having such a good early part of this race. We saw Malik Ray also having a great night, but finishing there in the low 20s. Remember, some of the drivers we're looking at, they're fighting for their eNASCAR lives, trying to avoid relegation. So anybody that had issues tonight has only a few more races left to find out if they're going to move on or not. This is what everyone wants to see, though. The drivers who are going to the Championship 4 at Homestead, Garrett Lowe, Nick Ottinger have punched their ticket. 2 more spots left, Blake.
You know, I got to say, interesting that we pretty much have 2 drivers that are going to be local to the Charlotte area. Sure, that's going to help keep the flight costs down, flying these Championship 4 out to Charlotte with Garrett Lowe out of Gastonia and Nick Ottinger out of Claremont, North Carolina. Another native will try to join him in Michael Conti, but right now 2 spots for 8 drivers up for grabs at Phoenix. It is going to be wild in a couple weeks to see who will join our 2 drivers. And indeed, it is going to be Phoenix. 2 weeks' time, our championship venue from 1 year ago is our cutoff race to make the Championship 4. Have a lot of drivers that were in that Championship 4 last year, Steven, that put so much time into this racetrack. They know about every inch of it. I figured that they have to be the favorites going into next week with all that preparation they did last year.
Well, that preparation for sure will carry over, but I think, you know, it's going to be an interesting dilemma because we're absolutely going to have a driver, at least one driver, get in on points, but you have to think it's going to take a win, even though it isn't guaranteed and you can get in on points. From what I saw tonight with the pressure put on by these playoff drivers, you better think a win is what's required and fall back on points if you're fortunate enough to get in that way. But it's just so impressive to see how they step their game up in the playoffs.
Alan, what's your final thought going into Phoenix? I know Nick Ottinger, a winner, he kind of gets to play the same strategy that Garrett Lowe did, where he really only has to focus on Homestead, Miami for the next month or so.
Yeah, nothing to lose on those 2 fronts for both Garrett and Nick. Maybe they can keep another competitor out. But you talked about the experience that everyone had at Phoenix last year. But look who's already in there. 2 new players with Garrett and Nick. So could it be more? Could it be 4 new players going for the championship? That's what's surprising me so far, is that we have 2 new players already in the Championship 4. 2 more spots left to fill.
It will be interesting to see for sure. Again, that is 2 weeks from now, Phoenix Raceway. We will be back here to see who will join our 2 drivers who have locked their way into the Championship 4 in Nick Ottinger and Garrett Lowe. That'll do it for us here at Dover Motor Speedway. Thanks to our entire production crew for making us look and sound good all season long. As we bid you farewell tonight from Dover Motor Speedway. Congratulations to tonight's winner, Nick Ottinger, as we will see you back here in 2 weeks.